wasn't working well the last one. Oh, this looks like it's going to work. Very good. Very good. Welcome everyone watching now. Probably nobody yet, but those watching later. We are going to be taking a look at Hearts of Iron 4's newest DLC, No Step Back. I've seen some videos on it, but this is the first time I've actually taken a look at it. See the new startup screen here. What's wrong with this historically? Maybe nothing terribly, but minor thing. That's a T-3485 as far as I could tell. Let's say that's a T-3485. Hey, Ari. That's a Panzer IV. Probably like an F2 or something like that in Panzer Gray. That wouldn't be a thing, these two. Now, if that's a 76 millimeter T-34, though, it doesn't look like it. That might face that, but minor nitpicky thing. But it's cool, which otherwise. Yes, okay, new game. We are going to be looking at this, and yes, we're going to play as Germany. I'm not sure by the last one what you mean. Battle for the Bosphorus. I haven't gotten that DLC actually. Maybe I should get it sometime. And hello, Lum. How are you today? Okay. Now, a little bit of news. Just watched a video that they asked questions of the current development team. I think the main guy, I don't really know him at all, would like to see Corps Commanders back. Yay. Germany boring, play something fun. Well, we're taking a look at the basics of the game right now. So we're going to be doing Germany. Okay. Railroads. Something that I've wanted in this game since before release. Oh, I was talking about La Resistance, okay. Yeah, La Resistance added the spies, that was good. And my understanding now is supply is based on the provincial level. I vehemently hate the state mechanic in this game. I don't see, well, supply was one of them. Industry, because it's based on the state level, is another. But I would just make available slots for some of these random provinces to account for it 0. So it would just be, you know, some of them, you know, some of the provinces like cities and a few others that you could put. Hey, JP. Well, the T-30 would probably have encountered a tiger quite often, yes. Probably wouldn't be able to get much done, you know, 1 versus 1 at close range, but it would definitely encounter them. Yeah, it's just more that they're using the, I don't know what, around 1942, 1943, probably more 1942. Not really good with dates, but sometime, I think it's in either 42 or 43, I forget, Germany gets rid of the base coat of paint for the tank as being Panzer Gray and going to the, what we called it in the past, ochre. It's not quite the same, it's sort of a yellowish brown instead of the sort of more tan that the Afrika Korps used. Afrika Korps, you know, see a lot of the tanks of the Afrika Korps have been painted tan, but you see they leave like the unit markings and some of the other areas around them unpainted, so you see the gray with the unit marking behind it. They go over with the idea of the ochre as the base color, and then what they're supposed to do is when those go to whatever front they're going to, they then get locally painted over on top of it. So it's the sort of the gray and sort of the F2 kind of look at the Panzer IV there in gray facing off a T-34A. It's been a while since I've seen you, JP, but glad to have you around here. So, you know, if you want historically correct stuff, you really have to sit on top of artists because, yeah, they like to make pretty pictures. I'm just sort of a bit of a nitpicker there. Okay, well, so my understanding here is supply is now down on the provincial level here. Factions, infrastructure, resources, resistance, supply mode. Okay, so supply mode here. So I guess the brighter color here is the most supply. This would be the least. So here, supply hub. Okay, well, let's just go to here. Okay, not a supply hub. We could state level 0 supply hub. We'll have to look into about supply hubs, but supply total based infrastructure. Okay, so total is 1.9 there. Supply here is 1.35. So we are down on supply levels. No problem. You'll see on, we still haven't gotten the code F. Sorry to hear that, Indra. Good to have you here. Glad if your first time, you might want to hit the follow button on Twitch. I actually just pre-ordered it about 8 hours ago, so it was still technically a pre-order. They sent me an email because I actually pre-ordered it on the Paradox website, and they sent me an email a few hours later. They've sent me in just a first, yeah, we thanks for the thing, but once it sort of came live, not quite, they then sent me another email with the Steam code to put in. So I don't know, you might want to check your emails or whatever. Hello, Spitfighter Studio, how you doing? Okay, so now I talked to Podcat. He had been the lead developer for since, well, he became it. I think Johan may have technically been his studio head early on, about railroads. And I will admit this right now, fairly early in the stream here, and I know people will be hello, Aaron Patrick, how you doing? Be watching this later. I used to be in the beta, got into the beta way back when, before the game was released. I'm not going to talk about stuff in that beta way back when. I sort of gave up on playing the beta and contributing to it, and they sort of kept me on well after it. But eventually, I'm not going to say in a bad way, but yeah, I was removed from the beta in the sense that, yeah, it kicked me out in the sense that, yeah, it was their decision, but I hadn't contributed anything in probably more than 6 months at that point. So I'm not salty about being kicked out of the beta at all, because I wasn't participating. It wasn't like, as opposed to saying I voluntarily leave, I just hadn't been doing anything. What I am a little salty about, just a little. One, I don't like the state mechanic, and I wanted supply based on the provinces, but that's a minor thing. What I really wanted was railroads, and now they're in, and I didn't get the chance to play test and work on their development. And so I'm looking at this here, and I hope somebody will mod this. Well, I'm sure somebody will, but because railroads here, because if you look at the railroad density in this part of Poland versus the railroad density out here, it's dramatically different. And earlier on, Podcat was like, yeah, railroads equal, or infrastructure equals railroads. Well, I sort of said no. And he has a strong point here in sort of Central Europe. But getting out to here, getting down, and I want to see what it's like down here. Okay, yes, this is, I do know from modding my Tanganyika mod, this did have a railroad that, well, I would have said it went more up to there, but basically that. And so things like this, as we can see here, are incredibly important. There was like one expedition of, well, less than 1,000 people, and these were Belgian soldiers that left the Belgian Congo after Belgium surrendered, but after Italy came in the war, and once the British offensive got going against Ethiopia, they sort of made the trek out of the Congo across the Sudan and participated a bit in going after Italy. But it was, less than 1,000 people, so it's not like even a division, and it may just be a few hundred. It was pretty small of an event. But it would be almost impossible to effectively, in my opinion, supply source from the Belgian Congo supply source, whatever that might be, down here or wherever, to move a division across Sudan into Ethiopia. Just be practically impossible. Hey, Daniel. And continue to supply that division in the ability to fight. Okay? That's different than, hey, we've got 10 trucks, we're getting, 100, or we're getting 200 guys or something, and we got some other, well, I don't know, maybe 20 trucks, and we're going to, hook up with some British garrison here to get some gasoline on the way, and, some, sort of minor expeditionary kind of operation. Yeah, that can make it across these tracks, wastelands, but beyond that, I would say really no, it really isn't. Now also supply does, and we can look on things, run along rivers as well. At least the major rivers. I don't know if about the minor. And so that's another thing. I wonder if they modified the focuses where it built infrastructure up to include rails. I don't know, and I haven't even looked there yet. This is, we're just taking a look in detail on this stream, and I'll be happy to. Okay, well, I don't have the Italian, unless it's a German focus. I don't have that. Now, they've reduced the number of provinces in Europe in this game, in the map, from Hearts of Iron 3. I don't think they've reduced the number of provinces overall, the whole map. They have made some of the provinces from Hearts of Iron 3 to here less silly in size, because a province would be almost as big as this state over here. Now, if you're really looking at playing a game that's going to have serious action in Brazil or in South America generally, that's a good idea. If you're looking at have a traditional World War II map, not the best idea. I think that it's still a performance issue for they don't want to have over a certain number of provinces to exist. I ain't supposed to be here. We're going to be in school until tomorrow, but the secretary or something in school gave us the whole week off. It said, well, very good, Daniel. Good to have you here, though. And so you can see here, if you can get supply along rivers, like the Nile, and that there is some cataphracts here, which are a series of waterfalls and similar sort of things. But you can, do a short bit of hauling supplies beyond it, and then river boats up here. And they also have, looks like railroads coming from Port Sudan into Sudan proper. Thought there was a railroad here. I thought there was a railroad here. I'm going to be investigating some of this. I know there was the French railroad there and the railroad Italy used. And I thought by the time that 36, I thought the Italians, no, No, I'd be wrong about that. No, I think they build it later on. It's after 36 they built. So there may be a railroad focus added to build up infrastructure in Ethiopia. But in places like that. So again, because I had the Via Balboa, which is a road running along the coast here. I believe there was some minor railroad movement, but not major, nothing connecting Tripoli or Benghazi at the time, to those two areas at the time. That looks about right. So we have the railroads here. Okay, here's an interesting problem here. Okay, this is incorrect. The railroad that goes from this part here out to this area here in Turkey runs through Syria because it was built prior to World War I, so it was all part of the Ottoman Empire. And so the trains would go, from Turkey into French Syria and back to Turkey. I know this because I read an article written somewhere between 1935 and 1937. I forget exactly the year, in a British Railway magazine, and they had talked about and they'd taken photos, and they had showed maps of the stuff, and they talked about their journey, and they got over here and then had to go overland, meaning by truck or whatever, to get down here to then get back on the rails through Iraq at the time. So I know that. And so this, again, to this day, there is no rail connection through here. I know through Jordan had been Iraq's, under some of the periods of Saddam Hussein's regime, when all kinds of embargoes were against him, Jordan still allowed trade, so people would import whatever to Jordan and then export it to Iraq. And by that point, there's a paved road, and I remember photos of trucks just lined up or just driving across here. So it was a truck convoy to supply into Iraq. So that isn't until well post World War II that they get a paved road. So I think across this desert we could see that would be minimally supply capable. If you can supply along rivers, I think you should be able to supply a German operation through, Vichy or French controlled Vichy or whatever you want to call it, into Iraq, but not across here. So this is good. We're going to see eventually, as I eventually play some of this, how much rails affect things. And this is historically correct. I do believe originally, and I don't know by this time period, but when they were first made this rail system here in Iran, they made sure it didn't go to the port. It was a few miles, like I'm just going to say 10 miles, but it was some distance away from the port is where they had the rail start, purely as an anti-invasion tactic. They thought that, yeah, okay, we want international trade, we want to import stuff, so bring it in on a ship, unload it, and then with trucker wagons, move it 10 miles or so, and then put it on the trains to get it to Tehran. So that was the situation at the time. So they go up to here. So there's no rail connecting the Soviets, so that's good. And so this would be useful if you move supplies along this river and then to here. Keep that. And here we have, now I thought, I'm sure, there is a railway right along here, on this bank of, whatever river this is. Wish they'd named the damn rivers. The Volgograd. Volga? Yeah, because it's called Volgograd today, Volga, the Volga River here. It's on this side of the river, and that was part of the German objective of Stalingrad. And yeah, it needs a railway here. Because without this railway, Germany coming here cuts off, and getting down here, cuts off supplies through to here. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking about here. Now I wonder why they're, oh, it's up here. Okay, it's way up here. I was wondering, for a minute I thought it was supposed to be down here, but no, it's up here. Okay, they have this railway. Hello, Montana. There should also be a railway coming through the south of Stalingrad to, yeah, there should be. Where, over to Stalingrad. Okay, we're over here. Yeah, going south. And that was the only way that the Soviets were able to do their offensive, from the north up here and from the south, is because of the railways. Now, my understanding is to be able to move supplies along the river, you have to hold both banks. If somebody's sitting here, supply gets cut here, even though you don't have to own both sides of the river. You just have to own one side of the river, and that cuts the supplies. So if Germany takes here and takes here, they're cutting both river and railroad supply, at least originating from Moscow. There may be local supplies moving through here, but like I was saying, is because Germany never got the railroad behind the river here, allowed them to do the double-sided pincer. I'm not going to say they couldn't have cut off Stalingrad just from a single side push, but it would have been a lot less likely. Even in the winter conditions, even though it was primarily Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian troops holding the flanks, there were some reserve German units, and just the time it would take the Soviets to push in here, Germany could have moved up. Some forces might have been able to keep Stalingrad from being cut off had they just pushed, say, from the north. But so we're looking at this. But this shows the importance of holding the railways and whatnot, and it is incredibly important. It is incredibly important, especially getting out here, and it shows things why Afghanistan. You're not going to invade the Soviet Union successfully across it here, because it isn't going to be able to supply enough forces, or invade India across Afghanistan. It just won't. Let's take a look out here in China. Okay, so they'll have a lot of river. There was lots of river trade going on. That is why there were a lot of non-Chinese, some Japanese, I believe. Don't know for sure on Japanese before the war comes off generally, but I do know there were British, French, and American river boats, or river ships almost, really, because these lakes here are sort of like small seas, river ships. And there's the Sand Pebbles, the movie about them going on, starring Steve McQueen way back in the day. So there was a lot of it, and particularly there's the Panay incident, in which the Japanese bomb a clearly marked U.S., meaning like a big flag painted on the roof, ship in the area. Multiple bombings, strafings. It wasn't just like an accidental bomb drop near them. It was a lot. So, and that was to sort of keep stability and trade open to the European powers. So that is important. River gunboats, yes. Wait, did they add river? Yes. My understanding is, and I just watched some of the like 5-minute videos explaining what was going to be in this right now. I watched them a few days, as they've been coming out the last few days, weeks, whatever. So yeah, supposedly rivers. I'm not sure about the smaller ones, but the main rivers do at least carry supplies. So that is a supply element too. And I don't know what happens when they freeze over. That would be an interesting thing. Well, I don't know if we'll get to that today. Just, well, in about 3 hours, I have a live stream to do for Slytherin. And since it's a paid job, I've got to do that for sure. So got a couple more hours here before I got to go. But we'll be taking a look as much as we can. So yes, so this will show that, and if you remember, I think it's right around this area here. Sort of why I don't like states, but maybe it's here. Inland, this area, I don't think it ever taken by the Japanese during World War II. I think it's here. Someone could look at some map and correct me if I'm wrong. But there was some area here that remained unoccupied. It definitely took the coast and at least all of the, cities, shall we say. I don't know all the small towns, but they controlled the coastline more or less, and they controlled all the cities along the coastline. And the Japanese just never moved into here. They definitely moved up through here, and we can see here why, if this is accurate. Again, I will be looking at more details and what in the future. I don't know if I'm going to mod it or whatnot, but if you have your supply moving here as well as moving along this river, moving into this area might not be such a good tactic, because you come up down through here, connect in through here. I would have thought there's some more rails down here. I'm pretty sure there were, but I don't know. I mean, I can start looking for maps. Now, Japan during this time period of the 1930s, shall we say, heavily increases rail capacity significantly, like it's looking here, between all the major cities, and additionally out to any significant resource, iron, steel, iron or copper or whatever it might be. They would, to whatever mines, they would build railways to efficiently get it out. So they were big time interested in that. Surprised there's no rails here. So I think we're a bit light on it. Now, I don't know how important it would be to have rails in every province that would have them, but we will see. Let's take a look over at Italy. I want to see this. Okay. I really wonder if there weren't, rails like through here. And I want to see if there's, because these are 3 bars, 2 bars. We'll have to look into some of that. Why it's okay. Well, what was the Panay incident? Yes, the Panay American gunboat that was attacked. Yes, that's it. And hey, Tinky. This is an out of the line live stream, but yeah, it's not normal, but since it's just out, I wanted to take a look at it and share with all of you my thoughts on it. China has a lot of, shall we say, cultural issues. I think that would be a good way to put it. And so I understand why they're not terribly fond with foreign intervention into their country, but European intervention might have, well, I would probably say definitely hastened the fall of the the Chinese imperial system. But there's also real chaos that the various, because I sort of keep saying going to say European, but it's also American and Japanese powers. Now, outside of America, most of them were trying to carve up at least economic control areas. America was the open door, wanted everybody to be able to go everywhere. But yeah, the stability that the external powers were doing, I think, is probably relatively well justified at the time. Do you think that the rails should increase factory production? Well, maybe. I I could easily say yes. I would, because one of the other major things that would help with production levels, of course, is river transport. They do a lot of transport bulk goods cheaply on the rivers. What? Okay, research. Okay, I would say the level of railroads or something would minorly help concentrated industry, massively help dispersed industry, because how do I put this? Most industry at this time, you located it in a location because of one of two, if not, but best if both of them together reasons. One was your location to resources, okay? Like what becomes the, steel, it's, steel, but it's, iron and coal, but iron, and it's where your resources are. Labor, to a point, moves to the location of industry. It's a bit more mobile. And two is where your energy is, which can be coal, but can be, hydroelectric. Hey, Ragar. Yes, we have trains. We're looking at this and looking through all of this. So, if you plunk down a factory near where you have enough energy and enough of your resources, basic rail is all you need. And I don't know that increasing rail levels will overly affect you or make production better. But if you're also, say, building engines here in Frankfurt, aircraft engine, but you have an aircraft factory up here in Dortmund and one in Berlin, say, you're taking a component of your production, your engine, and sending them to other locations. So having dispersed industry, components being built in different places and then assembled in a particular location, your rail infrastructure levels can be critical there. So that would, and hello Arno. So that really could be a benefit to here, because we now have railways state level. Okay, railways are used, so we could go to state level 1 through 3, and we're in Brandenburg. Infrastructure level 1 through 4. Obviously, we were at 4 here. So I want to look. So these lines here, these thicknesses, are based upon railway connection level. Frankfurt to Nuremberg railway connection level is 2 between these, and where this is 1. Province building, supply hub, rail hub. Oh, okay. So that's how we would build there. That. Okay, click to build railways. So there we would build that through into here. And we can up and down priorities here. Now, okay, so we can turn this into here, which would be increasing this. So if we want to say increase, no, to here, to here, oh, we can do that. So we can create a super rail here, through here. How interesting, how very, very interesting indeed. And when I tried to design proper system, more realistic World War II game than Hoi 1 through 4, I found it best and easiest way to simply copy current map of railways and use it as a base. Absolutely, Ragar. Yeah, most realistic way how to do it. Modern railways were optimized for getting most resources while spending the least energy for moving resources. Thus they feel right. Hello, Gert Derp, how you doing? Do you think Paradox is going for like a Hoi 3 with supplies instead of teleporting to the front line? I don't know. Okay. Quite honestly, I have not looked at, I don't know if you build supplies yet. I don't think our supply, I mean, not, this was an argument, and hello, Federico Varga, which is by far the thing people care about right now. How's the supply system? Well, we're looking at that, basically looking at railways right now. See, I don't think supplies are a yeah, again, it was sort of a semantic argument that we would have years ago now with the Hoi 4 developers. We would say we want supplies and oil in the game. They would go, yes, it's in the game. And I would eventually I got to no, and then eventually they did put oil into the game. Oil is now in the game, obviously. But I've always had supply effects, but do they have supply as in actual something that you produce? I do not think so. Production, dockyard, civilian, nope, it doesn't look like, because you can produce here, artillery. What about armored trains, or do we just not have that's the other cool thing. Oh well, artillery trains. Let's look at our research tree for and this is another thing, of course, we need to look at is the new tank designer system. That's another okay, so here we do have train class. Paradox. Why do they do this? Is this an armored train? Train engines encased in heavy armor make it less vulnerable to... Okay. Vulnerable attack and carry. Okay, so what they have here, I guess. I thought they had armored trains. Yes, train engine encased in heavy armor. I guess all they have is railway guns. They do not have armored trains. I guess. They have Dora. Now they had, I think, and if IKB's around, probably could correct me if I'm wrong, I think Germany had railway guns by 1936, but I could be wrong on that. And obviously they had railway guns in World War I, so, yeah. See, what I really... Almost every Paradox game does this, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Germany has the technology. We can build them. The $6 million man. No, wrong show. Germany has railway gun technology. They know how to build railway gun technology. All they got to do is somebody say, you factory Krupp, build me a railway gun. What kind? Just build me a railway gun. They can go pull out the plans from World War I and start building a World War I railway gun. Right now. No need to do any research to get here. Okay? Now, Afghanistan doesn't even have the technology to build a railway engine of any sort. But so yes, they would need to research all of this stuff here. Now, to maybe make a better one than whatever Big Bertha from, named after, I think, Krupp's daughter, Bertha. Big Bertha or something, make something better than the Paris gun of World War I. Yeah, update the technology. Yeah, some nations still, I think, had some leftover railway guns, but I'm not sure. So I don't like their blank slate sort of idea of all nations, we got to start with nothing and then you get to build it. They do this in every single damn thing. Play Imperator Rome. Hey, once they eventually get it there, eventually, as Ptolemaic Egypt, you can research down to get the Alexandrian's phalanx. Oh yeah, we're playing after Alexander died, and you're playing as either like Ptolemy or Seleucids, and yeah, they have silver shields and other phalanx units at that very fucking time, and you have to get halfway through the damn game to be able to research them instead of starting those nations with it. I hate the way Paradox does that. Yes, in something like EU, you're starting with very primitive black powder guns for some nations, and you're ending that at the Napoleonic Wars with, pretty high-tech flintlocks. And for something like Victoria, you're starting with high-tech flintlocks, because flintlocks get better and better. There's all kinds of little technologies you can work in there that most of you won't know about, but you're going from in Victoria, you're going from flintlocks to basically machine guns by the end of it. So yeah, like games like those, there's a lot of progress, and there's technologies that purely did not exist at the start of the game by the end of the game period. And yeah, something like, I don't know, jets are just in their infancy at now, and just engines really are at their infancy now, jet engines. So yeah, that's something that comes along. And you should have to research it from the basic, but I just sort of a pet peeve with Paradox games. Probably you don't build supply, but you build stuff like rifles. Well, absolutely, you do build rifles. That's for sure. Now it's just called, I guess here they've now called it here infantry equipment. Yes, absolutely, you build those, but you don't build the bullets. You don't build the grenades. Grenades are consumables. You don't reuse grenades after you throw them once. They had several mostly used naval guns, yes. Dora was a super heavy siege gun. That's not something they needed every day. Absolutely. And Dora was definitely an improved and a super heavy railgun. as railguns even go. So what are the supply depots for? Okay, well, let's look up into... okay, that's the capital. Okay. Supply hub in Magdeburg. Supplies demanded, none, blah, blah, blah. Supply connection to capital, 25. Railway forms, trains needed. Oh, and that's another thing you do need to build. You do need to build trains. So, well, and I'm guessing, well, I haven't read all the way down here, maybe you already have. But do note, you need to build trains. So if you go in and capture all kinds of territory in the Soviet Union and control all the railways, but if you haven't expanded, and Germany radically expanded their engine production during the war, go into more of that detail later, but if you don't have enough engines to, you know, keep everything going, and I think as the railway network expands, you need more engines to, you know, get the distance. So yeah, how do we get back to looking at supply hub here? Okay, here. Supply hubs distribute supplies to nearby provinces. Their range and efficiency are dependent upon weather, ground condition, infrastructure, railway level, and motorization. Okay. To increase the range and supply provided by a supply hub, consider using upgrade railway command or change the motorization level. Hold shift to show range. Shift click to toggle motorization. So hold shift to show range here. Okay, so you see the red area outlined there. That would be the range for this supply hub, I'm guessing. Shift click for motorization level. Control click to toggle allied supply. Okay, here. There's something about allied supply. Motorization levels. Okay, so here, let's see, we can do, that's 2, or horses, or 1. Oh, interesting. Okay. Hello, asymmetric. How you doing? Isn't there a supply icon on top of the screen level? The fuel icon. You're talking. Well, research, diplomacy, trade, construction, recruit. What? I think increase the number of trucks and supply, yeah. But let's, I want to look over here. Okay, infrastructure level, we just mentioning in railways, no radar stations, anti-air, that's all standard. More trucks, more supply, yes. But what I'm wondering about now here is production. Okay, here's production of trains and Opel Blitzes. So if we produce trucks used for transporting troops, supplies, and for division motorization. Okay, so coming out of the supply pool. Oh, how very interesting, how very good. So what I'm getting here is, for motorized divisions, as per standard, we can produce trucks. Boy, I've been playing Hoi 3 for so long here. Upgrade supply trucks. Okay. Medium priority. Recruit and deploy supply trucks. Operations. Okay, here we go here. So what we can do here is in our supply pool, I guess, we have trains and trucks can be used. So what we can do is we can, if you're invading, you know, good old Soviet Union, and you capture, let's say here, I mean, I know this is foreign territory, but capture to this point, and then that would be supply point, and then we, like we have here, increase the amount of trucks at this supply point to supply, you know, units out in these provinces here as they're moving forward. So if you have more trucks here, you're going to get more supply out to here. Hey, Toy Jet. So that would be really interesting, because if we come back and look here, motorization level, we can increase, I guess, for maximum, just down to horses, down to standard motorization level. And that's probably going to depend upon how many trucks we have to how much we can do in places for priorities. That is really cool. That is cool. Hello, hardcore history buff. Oh yeah, this so far, I mean, I have not played it more than, you know, I mean, this is my first really looking into it, starting it up. So I have not played it at all yet. I've watched a few videos, but I haven't played it at all. So we're just looking at what's going on here. So, but this seems great. This is what I more or less wanted at the start of the game. So, well, let's come here. We have some free military factories. Well, okay, let's put, we want to have lots of supply trucks. We want to have lots of trains. Well, that takes up all of our current, now I don't know, once these get going, I don't know if that's way too many, not enough, don't know. Or what we need eventually. We definitely don't have the rubber. So let's look at, who do we want to try to get rubber from? Well, it looks like the Dusty Shinzis and Malaya are our big opportunities. Let's just go with one factory. Not quite meet all of our needs. And so we have that one factory. Okay, technologies. Yeah, they've done different for Officer Corps. Let's take a little look at this here. Army Command. Okay, well, before I do that, continuing MIFO bills, good. Okay, here's our standard, and okay, this is our standard staff before, okay, this is another thing I also hate about, you know, I love a lot of these games, but there's a lot of things I hate about them. Why the hell don't you just start off with the historical government, more or less? You know, make some choices. I understand the idea, and I got, you know, in podcast, you know, said, hey, we don't want you to just one day have Hess in charge here, and then the next day we swap them over to somebody else, and then the day after that we're back to Hess, and it just, when you do government shakeups, it affects things. You can't do it all. He explained all that perfectly and reasonable, and I agreed with his point. I mean, I really did agree. But when you do this sort of, hey, nothing's there and we have no political power and we can't just have a government, what the hell? I mean, that to me is just what the hell. Okay, we don't have political power for that. Now, do we have... We don't have the political power. It's the same thing here. So, yeah. Naval, okay, so our spirit of our academy, which is going to take political our military power, or whatever this is here. Can anybody out there tell me a good reason why you wouldn't either give the historical one as starting, or give them enough military points here? Daily gain, we're getting nothing coming in for air experience army to fill these basic at start. I can agree that, hey, more combat, get you more skills to do more things. I agree with that, but why don't you start it at that? Hello, Dietrich Wolf. Will they have garrison orders for supply depots? I don't know yet. During Poland run, not a step back here. Doing Poland. Okay, very interesting. I figured you would. I know there's a national focus tree for Poland now. Imagine they're in government already, but these PP are used to turn them into efficiency and skill. You probably, well, you know, I've recently been doing work for Hearts of Iron 3, my mod there, and I have one of the guys. Now, there's no political power to change to change government leaders, but I have one guy, Rust or Roost or however you pronounce him, total nut job, in charge of science, and he was all about the Nazi type science, get rid of all this Jewish stuff, like science, lots of nutty stuff. So he's actually a terrible leader, meaning just basically bad stuff, bad attributes. So players should get rid of him immediately. So I would be cool with the idea of having, starting in power, some guys that are just not good, and you want to change them out. I can agree with that, but you should. Schacht would be a good one to start with. Goebbels would be a good one to start with. As in, would be in power now. If you're only going to have these three slots available, Schacht, Goebbels, and maybe Hess. Bormann shouldn't show up until later. Basically, of course, after Hess goes, or maybe Narath as foreign minister at start. He eventually gets pushed to the side and told to take over Czechoslovakia to be able to move in Ribbentrop. But yeah, okay, so national focuses. 4-year plan. Rhineland, of course. Naval rearmament. Let's look over here. I'm just seeing if there's any railway stuff here. Doesn't look like it. Looks like nothing there, so we're just going to do the usual. Construction. So we have these guys here. We're going to cancel all this. Just doing that to see what was going on. So, let's see. Now, another thing that was asked, should you get a industrial bonus? Maybe civilian. Maybe a civilian. Well, no, military industry. I don't know. Yeah, that could be a good idea for a bonus. What's in Brandenburg? Put one. In there. Down there, increase our civilian production. We can start our research. Let's look at industry. Yes. basic machine tools. Like Germany didn't have basic machine tools. 1936 people, they were the best in the world at the time. Again, someplace like Afghanistan, you may want to even do precursor technology, certainly, but in other nations, you know, Spain, Portugal, maybe not. Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. We can talk about that in some of those countries. Okay, let's start here. So we'll get some basic tank chassis being researched. Officer Corps preferred tactics selection. We have no political power or any of these up here. You probably start with, yeah, just checking that. Okay, so we have that. Terrain mode, resistance, compliance, resources. We can see our resources. Infrastructure levels. Exercise. Yes, that's a good idea. Very good idea. So what we're going to do is put you in charge here. Who here though? Okay, and this is one thing I think it may be the case here. Is that he's already an advisor. Roles can't be improved depending. Theorist roles can't be improved depending on skills. Okay, so let's see. Officer Corps. Put him here now. And let's go with who are we going to put in charge here? Are these all? Oh, let them appear. Okay, let's. I wouldn't have multiple. Later him. Von Kluge. I don't know enough about Von Kluge. Von Rundstedt, maybe. Why don't they have Fritsch or Bloomberg as starting generals? I mean, Fritsch is Bloomberg is basically in charge of the army in charge of the war ministry at this time. Okay, well, army exercise. Okay, so let's looking here at some of these, a bit new here. Yeah, I know this is exercise, so start training. Yep.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
Oh boy.
Achtung!
Why isn't it letting me drop and drag?
Ihre Befehle.
There we go. All right.
Zuhören.
And what lead
Ihre Befehle.
here? Last bits. Right. Hey, I've noticed a few new people here. If you're new on either YouTube or Twitch, please hit the follow or subscribe button, please. Love to see you around more often for more Hearts of Iron and other historical gaming videos and tutorials and things. Oh, let the clock go, I guess. We're doing research. We're doing some construction. We're producing trucks and trains because it's just the stylish thing to do. Now how do we get to the tank designer here? Okay, light tank. No, we don't want to produce it. No, stop that. Create a variant. Okay, here we are. So, this I'm guessing is what I guess, but who knows. Figuring is a standard Panzer II. Obviously, that's the model here. So, secondary turret. Do heavy machine gun. Doesn't show up on the model, it doesn't look like. Do that. So it has module slot features basic radio. This, we already have a basic radio. Okay, back. Special modules. Additional machine gun, sloped armor, wet storage ammunition. Now that's fairly late in the war, and I think only the Americans did it. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. I don't know much about wet storage. Basically, of course, it's to try to keep ammunition from exploding when things are on fire. Extra ammunition storage, smoke launchers. Okay. Breakthrough and defense improvements, production cost, design cost, reliability increase. Okay. Extra ammunition storage, defense, breakthrough, reliability minus. Okay, slope, production, designed armor plus 20%, but it's 10% more. Cost. Defense breakthrough, so smoke launchers might be the thing. We're gonna cancel that. So if we were to create this, throw on special modules. Too expensive, so we don't have the power or the military availability to add this at the moment. But as we can see, we can see here. Oh, what is? Yes. What I want to see is what is, okay, it's currently at 10. So by adding this, it would go to 10.5 in cost. So that wouldn't be a very big cost, but you're getting defense point 2.0 and breakthrough 1.0 improvements. So yeah, that's pretty good. Ink designer works like a ship designer. Yeah, ink designer could be better. Well, I don't know. I mean, we always say could be better. I don't know specifically how it would be. You need a slot for the radio. I know it wasn't standard in most nations, and Guderian's thing was to have it in Germany. But come on. Yeah, it's a radio and a battery. Yeah, I know. It shouldn't need a slot. Okay, where I'm going to disagree with you on one element here, where it says production cost 1.00. That is where it needs the slot. Because if you look at, say, the Soviets, they probably at least, and I don't even know if there's good data on it for anybody to know. But if you're looking at that, I don't even know if platoon commanders commonly had a receiver only, not a duplex, a sending and receiving radio, but just a receiving radio. Platoon commanders might have had them in the Soviet system. Company commanders would have had a sending and receiving type radio, And most tanks, this is a sort of before the war starts or in 1936 or something, most tanks would simply be somebody in the tank, probably the platoon commander, would be paying as much attention to what the lead tank of the platoon was doing, sort of like, hey, you stay to my right and you stay to my left kind of thing, forming a wedge or whatever the thing is, and look out for my flag signals, because I use semaphore flag signals as common kind of things for communication. And that was similarly with France. Germany goes and puts radios in just about every capture. Well, all the ones that get significantly used. So I think the idea of an additional production cost versus not having them is worthy. Radio at that time needed a radio operator, and that increased the cost, tank size required. Well, I would say no on needing the a radio operator. See, like the British, they thought the commander of the tank should operate the radio, where the Germans and the Americans thought that there should be a radio operator. And you can see this in the Grant tank, the earlier, that's the British term for it, the M3 medium tank that the Americans call it. The early Lee version of it had 7 crew members, and the radio operator was down in the hole with the radio. Well, the British asked for, and we eventually got into production very quickly, really, but a larger turret that was just, an area behind. It's larger mainly because of it sticks out over the back of the turret, if you will, there. And they put the radio up there, and they have the commander play with the radio there. At least in some, and most of them were down in the desert, they turned what had been where the radio was located into a, at least in some cases, water storage. A tank for, that you can get water out of for the crew to keep them going good. And the British, generally speaking, went down to 6 crew members instead of 7 for the tank because they did not have a radio operator in it. So the British just wanted the commander of the vehicle to do 2 things. 1, keep situational aware, look around, see what's going on, and 2, part of that situational aware, talk and play with the radio. And it includes playing with it, not just, because, tank, other, in American and German tanks, the radio operator could turn turn it on and off for the tank commanders to talk or listen to other vehicles. But where like the Germans and the Americans wanted the commander to be listening to the internal communication system of the tank, while the radio operator is listening for like instructions, and whether you're at the platoon or company level or whatever, who your commander is, listening for instructions, find out that there's instructions, turn and inform the tank commander, and then he would maybe ask to listen to them themselves or whatever and get switched over to it. So it's sort of a design choice. It goes back and forth. The reason why some countries, command tanks, yes. So, hey, Zizi, good morning to you. Okay, I know we're going slow here. I'm going to leave this going. I'll be right back in just a moment. Going to grab a Coke. I'm going to continue this, but need to keep talking, so be right back. All right, I'm basically back here. Days you got the tank vehicle commander, which is normal radio crew on board, and only using. Yes, now, well, yeah, today radios are much more advanced than they were back then, obviously. So the tank commander can do that. Served in 20, and it was silly. Aluminum 109 artillery, not a tank. Yes. Tanks were the boys' club at the time. Yes. So yeah, I'm sure it was. So yeah, radios have improved. The situation is much different now, I am sure. Now we can give a command out here. Commander, I should say, out here. And do list and put him over there. So now we're training up a greater percentage of our army. We've got some command power. We have some political power here. Not yet, but yeah. So we're getting that done here. Slowly building up political power because we're also using it to do the Rhineland. National focus. Well, and there's talk that they may be doing corps commanders or the lead development. So we're almost back. You know, it's cool to have, you know, a theater commander. He here really is an army group commander. It would be cool to have theater commanders, but maybe not necessary. If we have army, or we have army group, we have army, and we get corps commanders, and then of course I'd like divisional commanders back. Then we're great. Okay, Treaty of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia has capitulated. And the one thing that, well, another thing, not one thing, but one thing that really shows up why these railroads are so important is if you hold, what is this? I don't know how to pronounce this. Scope or Scopy or whatever. I presume the J is more like a Y. Scopy here. If you hold it, you hold this here or somewhere like that around here, maybe up here along, you know, at a bridge across a river and a mountain. Hold that there, and remilitarization of the Rhineland. And you hold somewhere over here. Europe isn't such the soft underbelly of Europe isn't so much of a thing that Churchill was always talking about, because you've got to take here to push up. Now, of course, if you can, you know, keep attacking in other locations, sure, but you're not going to land up here and split if you haven't taken Italy, just because of, you know, air power and even naval power to a lesser degree, maybe. Even with, you know, the Americans and the British here coming up here. So you don't have to worry about, well, the AI attack here. Well, if it does, you should just be able to kill its supply moving up here. It's got to, you know, take out Italy or whatever. So these railways here really create a choke point down here. Scopy, thanks, Rhaegar. Yeah, I've often wondered, didn't know exactly how you pronounce it. The thing. Of course, I got thrilled to love it forever. but it's pretty shitty and old tech. Onboard heating was constantly broken down and engineers never had enough spare circuit boards. Okay, cool. Well, 109, yeah, cool. I know that's, well, the news media thinks that that's a tank. Okay, anything with tracks on it, they call it tank. Right, Army Innovations 4-year plan. Yeah, I haven't, you know, it's been so long since I played even basic, because I normally play, you know, Hoi 4 modded, so I'm not used to playing this. Okay, we now have enough political power. Why isn't Shack, oh, we haven't, oh! Gamer is having a moment here of well, the Panzerhaubitze 2000 is what, about 40 years newer, 30 years newer than the 109? So yeah, it's better. Now the Paladin version is, no, I'm not good. Toy Jet. No, Gamer is, like I say, everyone, it's been a long time since I played unmodded Hoi 4. I mean, probably more than a year. Well, more than a year. Maybe even 2 years. Because I mostly just play, you know, whether it's the Total War mod or World Ablaze or Black Ice or Kaiserreich or whatever. I'm normally playing a modded game. Okay. In 1939, Helmar Schacht held two positions. One as sort of Reich, well, I guess it would be called basically Reich Minister of Economics, if you will. I don't think that's the exact title, but he was a title very close to that. Okay. And he was in charge of the Reichsbank. So he had two jobs. The Reichsbank and the Minister for Economics, basically, in 1936. At this, you know, before 1936, he has these two jobs. Walter Funk, which I could put in charge right now, but Walter Funk. Why is Walter Radio here? Why is Walter Radio? Funk is German for radio. Why is Walter Radio here? Have you outside of Hoi 4, have you ever heard of Walter Funk? Well, basically, Walter Funk is Goering's yes man. That when the four-year plan comes along, he's the guy that's running it for Goering, if you will. Goering's in charge of it, but the guy that's actually doing all the paperwork, if you will, you know, high-level stuff. Not just a guy doing the you know, like a secretary, but a high-level administrator for the four-year plan. Okay, so the idea that Schacht can only come in once the four-year plan is developed, but we can have this numbskull here and it be before the four-year plan. That should be reversed, people. It should be reversed, if anything. And even if you're not going to do it at the start, this is why Gamer has these moments here that it's just like, what the fuck are these people thinking? I mean, just literally, what the fuck are they thinking? I don't know. Okay, it's better. Also has its flaws during shooting. It shot out of the security zone because of targeting failed due to the clouds. Uh-oh. It was bigger than needed. Nothing happened. Everything is way overkill there in terms of security. I can imagine. Kind of prepared for Misfiring sounds incompetent, but well, it should. And Germany is much more densely populated than much of the United States. You know, you go to places in the United States that, you know, like the National Training Center out here in California. You can't quite, shoot anything out of it. It's way too big. Okay, so we can only do him after the 4-year plans is national focus is completed. So, I mean, he should be, and I totally get the idea here. And I would do more slots than this, and I would have him, a slot for our economics guy, like in Hoy 3 style. But it just, the guy here sort of represents the main guy in charge, even though there could be competing people. Trade opinion. Don't know that we don't want to do communist revolutionary, armaments minister, civic. We don't want to convert factories. Political power gain, political heavy fighter production cost. That's interesting. First among equals, silent workhorse. Well, yeah, this seems of the choices between those. Having a guy here that increases development of political power is useful. Now, hello. Let's see. We're going to put okay. We're going to put him in charge here, and yeah, let's do some naval exercises. Okay, so now that we're using a lot more fuel for the naval exercises, all right. So we may stop that in a while. Okay, we can do something with the military officer corps now, it looks like. So let's pause this. Spirit of the Army, professional. Okay, we don't have enough yet for any of the, that's 75, that's 25. Land doctrine, mobile warfare. Right, okay. So this is a nice sort of single point to look at the army here. Click to add to military high command. Okay. Right, and theorist. Right, so this is basically what we can look here. It has been moved all in one. This is a nice sort of all-in-one look at things. It's going to take a lot of political power to add them here. No, so we're not going to do that just yet. And yes, I know I'm not building any divisions because we are currently producing trucks and trains. hello. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. Narkit. Try butchering that. Vampire enjoying black ice. Oh, very good. Gonna learn to trade now. Very good. Glad you got into that. There are a bunch of good guys over there. And hello, War Thunder 007. How you doing? I didn't say hi earlier. You like the choo-choo sounds? Yeah. Let's see, can we get close enough here to some train moving? I don't know. I know they're on the map at times. Okay, electromagnetic engineering. Nice. Might as well do these early if you're going to do them at all, because they affect everything else. Now I understand that they've gone and done some work. I figured they had to do some work for the AI, and I'm presuming, or they have to for the combat AI to understand railroads and their importance, so that the AI doesn't, ignore them and try to move across some area, move along here and not take the railroad. So it has to understand railroads at least a little bit. At least they should try to. So we'll see how that comes about. Okay, United Kingdom dominates Dutch trade. Swell. I don't really care at the moment. And so if the AI is getting better, other than liking counters, which I really do like, on the map, proper counters. Yeah, we still have the teleporting planes issues, meaning, they can bomb Berlin without coming across these other areas, so, you can't effectively, attrit them as they move across. Other than that, and a lack of a second London Naval Treaty, yep. Oh, we can do more production. Cool. Yeah, let's keep building a few more civilian factories here. Let's get one in the Rhineland and one in the northern Rhineland here. The map, somebody can come in and re-edit the map. But what better than this potentially now? Yes, they have supplies in the game. This has supply effects, but we're now doing... Just turning my audio here. Yep. Yep, the train sounds cool. Maybe we'll zoom back out, lower the audio down. How was von Rundstedt regarded as a general? I'm trying to learn. I would say very well. Von Rundstedt was regarded. In popular history, you pretty much only hear about Rommel and Guderian. Yeah, there's good reason for that, but von Rundstedt was, I would say, a very good general. Maybe not a great general, but a very good one, yes. What does Tinky say? Was well respected by soldiers and officers alike, not so much by the party. Well, that's a different matter. Then again, nowadays, people shun him for not moving against the party. Yeah, kind of recall Paradox has command for AI UK, stop beating up Italy and North Africa so hard, please. Well... And it's going to be interesting. Do we have, where is it? Infrastructure levels? Oh, I guess we're not seeing, well, maybe, I don't know if we're seeing infrastructure levels here. Well, you have, whether it's the AI or the human, you have Britain can put more forces down here than they did historically, because they were a lot more worried about being invaded here, and they needed to keep a lot of forces to occupy places like India, you know, and various other parts of the world. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Paradox has unrealistic expectations for their AI. If you've been around long enough here, you know the fight that it took us, and I don't mean just like me or any people I know, but just us, the players, to get this to happen, to have a barrier for no-go zones. Because they were always of the opinion that they could have their AI to like, oh, we'll be smart enough that if you drive a tank division down here, it'll just lose all of its supply, or all of its organization level, because it's out of supply, so it won't do it. Well, the AI was always doing it, and so it's not like a human making a rational decision to like, oh, well, maybe if I drive or, you know, I send a cavalry division or something across this desert, and maybe they haven't, you know, occupied here, and I'll come in, I'll, you know, even a very weak division, I'll come and cut off their supplies or something like that. No, they just come out here and then have large numbers of divisions die out here in impassable areas. So we finally got them to do not just here, but some of them are like that, and some of them are just, you know, a simple line here that, yeah, this is unpassable. You have to come through the Khyber Pass or out here in these deserty plains to get into Afghanistan. So they've definitely, I'm not saying they shouldn't do some more around different parts of the world. Maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. I don't know. I probably think of a bit more impassable areas. But they always think that they're able to do good AI. And nothing in their history has shown them, or shown me with Hoi 4, that they can do that. Nothing. So I don't know. You know, drive across the Himalayas? Yeah. Well, they would try. And unlike Hoi 3E, I've not played, just general information, I've not played Hoi 1 or 2. I've only played 3 and 4. In Hoi 3, infrastructure level 1, or if there is a 0, you can't move across. It takes infrastructure level 2. But here, basically anything you can go over minimum. So yeah. And a lot of us were talking that, you know, it's not so much can a group of commandos get across, and there probably should be a few places, you know, here that would maybe stop movement. It's not, again, not commandos whether they can get across. It's whether you can get across a division or more and continue to supply it. That is the real thing of whether you should be able to do some, you know, get across terrain areas. Okay, so now we can get shacked. So here, civilian factory, railway, construction, refinery, all of that is heavily improved. So for national focus, autarky, infrastructure, construction speed. This will get us some more army experience. Yeah, I'm used to trees that are much more complicated. Now we can come in here. And this will get us military experience without. Okay, I want to look at something here. Okay.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
See, if we were to change this. Keitel. Is Keitel here as a general? Kleist, yes. Kleist. Right. Okay, so Keitel is not here as general. I was wondering if he would be here as both a general and a for like chief of army, but no. Okay. Now again, like I was saying before, in 1936, it would be von Blomberg, however you pronounce it, would be the guy in charge of the army. I made a mod that will no longer probably work with all of this, but that added some of these guys in a rather well done way. I can't recall okay. Now a good general, or even a very good general like von Rundstedt, wasn't going to be able to defeat the American invasion. He was nothing like that. Rommel was, I would say, a very excellent general. Definitely at the sort of corps command level, because sometimes you get guys that are really good at being excellent at, say, being a divisional or corps command general, and not that they can't be a good guy sitting back in Berlin or the Wolfschatz back here or something, doing all that stuff, but that's maybe more of an administrative genius. You have like a really good administrative genius for the Americans is Marshall, the guy who later handles the Marshall Plan. You have General Marshall. Pershing is involved in World War II, but mostly again back at the War Department. He doesn't get deployed anywhere. But Marshall does a really, I'd say, great job at. I was going to say really good, no, but really great job at organizing up. Well, basically the military, but more focused obviously on the Army and the Air Force, because it was the Army Air Corps at the time, and organizing it up, and not just as like a supply commander getting the right supplies there, but just the whole organization element. And so I don't know that Rommel would have been the great guy to command the Eastern Front. I'm not saying he would be bad at commanding the Eastern Front, and he might have even been great, but obviously he never experienced that. But he was, a great general we know because we can see his practices for corps levels and lower. But the reason he's so, because I'm talking a bit about, why, people talk about Guderian and Rommel. Rommel is because, he fought the British in North Africa, so there's a lot written about him because of that. And then he fights briefly, if you will, in France. But he sort of figures in that. Guderian, who, yes, early on, also fights in the West, but mostly is involved in the East until he is sidetracked. He is both a, because I take him as being the best, he's at least my favorite, and I think the best German general of World War II, because he's both develops, and I know it's not all him, but he develops what we call today the Blitzkrieg operational system, as well as put it into practice very, very effectively. Where you can look at Liddell Hart and the other British theorist. I'm blanking on it. I blank on names at times. They're both Army officers. B.H. Liddell Hart. Oh, and what's the other one? I don't know. Over in one of my bookshelves. As soon as if somebody ever says it, I'll remember it. They were, by the time World War II is on, they're now basically former or reserve officers, and because of certain reasons, political mostly, they're not let anywhere near operational. They're great theorists, and they come up with a lot of great theories, and they write books, and they influence, heavily influence, including heavily influence people like Guderian, who reads a lot of their work. influences military doctrine, but we don't have them any real experience of them on the battlefield at any high command. Hello, B. Enos, how you doing? Hoi 4 never gave generals expire or coming of age. Yeah, I agree with that. They don't, and that's why another thing I don't like about Paradox and Hoi 4. Hoi 4, we can talk about how poor Imperator Rome was on depth, and like again, recently I watched a video. They described one of the earlier descriptions of Imperator Rome as broad as an ocean, but 2 inches deep. No depth to it. Well, Hoi 4, and even to this day, has very little depth. It's more than that, but it's it's all about the mechanics. Everything they do is about the mechanics here. They don't do the idea of, expiring generals. You have, let me see here. I see his name if I'll remember. I think he's here. One of the Nazi generals, not SS, but the army general. I'm forgetting his name right now. He dies of a heart attack while running. Boy, I wish I remembered names better. Often wore a monocle. I forget what his. I just saw his name. He dies of a heart attack. Oh, I'm doing very good. So that's sort of like a non-combat death, and you can just presume have him die at the historical date. Or Bram Amoli, who is a Austrian field marshal who comes in, eventually dies just basically of old age. The old OOB from Hoi 3 without the HQ unit. Yeah, hello, Lord Samuel. Well, I think they're heading a little more in that way. I am relatively happy of not having all of this on the map. They're talking about the lead developer wants to bring in corps commanders, and I would also love to have divisional commanders back in the game. And now I would say it's a bit trickier dealing with generals dying in combat, because they definitely did. You have what's his name, who fell out of a jeep and died in North Africa, German general. Stumme, I don't know. There, you have fighting generals, admirals, and you admit, it's just partially JP, the personality of people. Some people are just not. I mean, not that they're incapable of paperwork, but they're just not, paperwork managers. And then you have people that can be managers that are just. Really good, or really good at the front lines. Yeah. Well, that's mods. That's not the Paradox team. Like you're saying, generals dying of old age in Kaiserreich. Well, yeah, and you can do that in mods. I mean, you can mod that in. You can have a general die. General Hitler died. Yes. Hello, Road Manor. How you doing? Okay, so we've got more stuff. We're coming down here. So what I'm going to do here now is, well, let's go back into the new system. Got to get used to using this. We don't have the political or reader. Okay, so we need to get that up. So what we're going to do here is we're using up too much fuel, so we're going to stop that and send them back. Now we're starting to climb back up in our fuel usage, or our fuel storage. That. current rate of, so we're still going down, but very, very slowly. So let's see about, now that we've increased some of our let's get it from Romania. Not 316 yet. There we go. Hopefully we'll now turn that into a positive fuel gain. And hello, yeah, Lord Samuel. I hope they will expand the OOB system. Yes, they've talked about, just in a release video, I think it was released today, they talked about the new lead developer, I think, or at least one of the producers or developers or whatever they want to call it, for Hoi 4 would like to bring back corps commanders. So there would be, let's go back over to the Army here. So there would be Army group commanders, Army commanders, corps commanders. And you could easily come in and add divisional commanders if you wanted to, and you could have a reasonably good AI auto assign, so most players don't ever have to touch it. People like me who want to touch it could go in and, you know, manually pick the person they want to do. But let's go to focusing, getting some of those done like that, and that would be great. I will say I like the on-map style of Hoi 3, but I can live with this. I can live with this just fine. Hey Niagara, how you doing? Yes, we've been looking at it and examining stuff here. Got about another 45 minutes. Kaiserreich is good. Road to 56. Kaiserreich. I played both. I like what I call the weird, wild, and wacky world of Kaiserreich. I like it, but it's not the main thing I want to play. World War I mods, yeah, those are fun. You know what I don't stand is that map. Yeah, okay, yeah, I don't think it's ugly. I like the one that the Black Ice team uses, which is not the standard one, but personal taste, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to the store, Steam coins to buy this, yes. Yes, this is a worthy one to get. Now, I've not yet got to any combat, not yet to even been able to do anything down here, so I don't know how well the AI is doing. The AI, I understand they have mentioned improvements to the AI. I'm presuming, or changes maybe the term might be, I'm presuming for the moment that it's combat AI that they're talking about, not just like diplomatic AI or production AI, which they've had to at least get into, like production AI to tell them to make things like trains. But as mentioned here, I hope the AI will take into account railways in their, for their offenses and, secure, because it doesn't, this here, for the invading Germans to hold this supply dump, because the supply dump will have a radius of supply out from it, will help them, but it won't help the Russians if the Germans hold it here. If the Germans have cut it off, or cut it off even back here, this won't be helpful for the Russians. So the Russians would need to fall back and run their supplies further back here, or for the invading. Germany's just trying to push up this path and not taking either one of these railroads. That's going to become a problem, obviously. So the AI needs to be able to secure. And coming from here, taking here, and pushing up here without getting the rail down here, it'll be a problem. And this is why certain things are important here, and why I've always advocated for this railway. So I've not even made it, obviously, this is the first time I made it to July 1936. This is as far as I've made it in there. So I can't talk about how well the AI is doing, but so far this railway stuff is looking great. So I would say at the moment, if you can afford it, yeah, buy it for the $20 it costs. Okay, so Well, what else are we going to research here? Let's research that. I want to make sure we're getting enough resource gain. Well, is there, what are we, okay, down here. So that's, oh, this is 39 is what it says. Deutsches Reichsbahn, we could do that here. Yeah, let's do this. Now, I very much to everyone's strong suggestion, do not pre-order the game. I pre-ordered this by about 6 hours before it came out, but I knew I needed it just for the channel, even if it sucked. You know, it didn't need to be good for me to want to play it. Okay, you're going to go to a new unit, and yeah, let's just do these. Let's do these 3. Let's see, who can we put them in charge of? Yeah, let's do Guderian. Okay, what is add a national focus tree for Finland? I think they've only done for this one Poland and Russia, but sure, that wouldn't be a terrible thing. There's now rocket type tanks in the like the Calliope and the flame tanks. Flame tanks are very useful in the Pacific War. Yeah, those were both. The British used, I think they called it the Crocodile, a Churchill set up as a flame tank. They're good anywhere, really only for really good for, not able to be used, but good for fortifications that you get close enough to flame tank. And the Calliopes, yeah, those are cool. Okay, guys, let's see if we can come down here and where is it? Send volunteers. Let's see. 2 divisions is current limitation. Okay, back. Let's give him back to. Now we're 2 divisions here. Fast is important, certainly. Well, yes. That is a thing, burning down vegetation. But what's really good is out in the Pacific War, particularly the Pacific War out here, you're looking at using tanks to take out Japanese bunkers. And that's what they really used them for. Effectively, you'll find little or no flame tanks, at least that I've ever seen, in like the Burma theater. Now they don't fight much in the Dutch East Indies. Don't know how much they use flame tanks. I'm not saying they didn't use them, but not a whole lot in the Philippines campaign. But the Marines used them. You use them a lot in coming in various places, including going into Okinawa because all the fortification pillboxes, yes, those kind of things. And you can just, you don't even have to with a flame tank, because it's one, it's armored. 2, it can have a more powerful stream of liquid going out, and 3, it can have more liquid going out than a standard just backpack flamethrower. But either one, you really don't even have to get a flame into the bunker. What they can do is just simply by pouring the flame onto it, is you suck out all the oxygen and the people die of suffocation in there. That can happen. So not saying that that's more common than simply getting the flame in it, but yeah, you don't have to actually go in with flame inside. You just have to get rid of the oxygen. And so they're useful in those kind of operations, but they're limited. And one of their limitations is they're dangerous to the operators. Some of I think it was the British crocodiles, they had they had a trailer behind the tank that carried all of the flammables in it, and all they ran sort of flexible piping, tubing kind of thing up from there through the tank, and then shot it out, so that there was less likely to be penetrated the tank and blow out the tank in from inside with it. So there is some of that problem with flame. Okay, our autarky, good, we got that. That will help us. Coal liquefaction. Civilian factories, we like civilian factories. Oh, the British were very sensitive to casualties. They had lost a lot of casualties, and especially post D-Day and post, after that, they very much. Oh, the Italians showed up just where we did. Okay, well, let's first head here. Well, I remember the days when, the Italian force would just show up and just park somewhere and not move anywhere. Now, the one thing they have not done I don't think here. Let me just see here. Okay, let's stop training.
Ausrücken.
No. Like I say, I'm used to playing Hoi 3 so much recently.
Ausrücken.
Hold on. Oh.
Ihre Befehle. Ausrücken. Ihre Befehle.
Strategic movement. Okay, so this is another thing.
Bereit zum Ausrücken. Ausrücken.
Okay, this is what I would want them to do. They haven't done it. I would want strategic movement to only be along railroads, that you have to start on a province with railroads and be able to draw a path along the province, so meaning you can't be cut, and end in a province with a railroad. That's how I would do strategic movement, so that you can't strategically move this division because it's in a province without railroads. You would have to walk it to there, then put it on the railroad, and then move it. Maybe they think that's too complicated for the human, or maybe they think, for their players, or whether they think that's too complicated for the AI. I don't know, or whatnot, but that is what I would want them to do now that we have railroads. What's asymmetric? I wonder if strategic bombing is going to be useful now with the railways. Yes, my understanding here, haven't gotten really there, but okay, stop. Hold the air wing. Okay, mining. Logistical strikes, and it has a little railway symbol on it. Attack enemy logistical capabilities such as trains and trucks. If executed at night, missions have a much lower chance of being detected. Suffers a penalty. Okay, so you can bombard trains and trucks. I know there's a picture of a field somewhere, sort of like a field or river somewhere where there was a bridge or a viaduct, maybe more would be the term, with a railway on it, and it just bombarded all to hell all around it, but the railroad is still operating. That the Allies tried to cut the rail link with aerials, and it looks like a moonscape around it. You figure if this was the photo of the whole thing, this is just all bomb craters, but the railroad is still operating, that they were able to repair it enough to keep it operating. So other than now bridges would be a different matter. Railroad yards, depots would be a different matter. But for the standard railroads, so they're going to, it looks like, kill trucks and trains. So that's interesting there. That's very interesting. They've added dozer parts for tanks too. Cool. But what I hear, pretty much useless. Well, there were very few dozers in World War II. Dozer tanks. They did exist, but they were very few. So I wouldn't. Having too big of an effect would be OP, I think, and unhistorical. That would be my takeaway. Now, if we're talking more modern warfare, absolutely. Like we now see on Hertz War Thunder, with their new groundbreaking mod, they actually have dozers on modern tanks that can build tank, berms and whatnot going on it. I think it's bombing now has mission attack supply lines. Question is, will the AI use it? I don't know. I presume they will, but I don't know. You can't attack a supply dump. There was a Sherman variant equipped. Yeah, Lord Samuel, I do understand there was, but I don't think there were many of them. And I don't think they had a big effect on the war. I'm not saying they didn't have an effect. I'm not saying they weren't useful. I'm just saying I don't think they affected much. That would be my estimation of the situation. He's moving slower than the infantry division. Now they're both just walking, or not strategically redeploying. I don't know if terrain or infrastructure levels are the feature that's slowing them up. Okay, so he's here, so he's going to join the attack. Take this down. And to all those that are new here, please subscribe or follow the channel on Twitch. I'm live on both of those. The Olympiad World News is going to go to Japan, or was going to go to Japan, but ended up not, of course. Well, oh no, that's after. That's 1940. It's supposed to go to Japan, not 36. It's in Germany. I'm saying, I know this stuff. Okay, well, another government guy. Might as well get him now if we can. Military factory, domestic. Prince of Terror, we don't need. Well, maybe not. Maybe we'll go with Chief of the Air Force. Worrying sounds about right. We'll get air superiority, air experience gained daily. Most dozer tanks were for engineers or on-the-spot modification, something like the bouquet breakers, or whatever you want to call them. Was definitely in theater production or development and whatnot, and very useful for that very limited use case. I don't think there was much use, and I don't see a lot of photos later on with the cut up anti-tank traps mounted on the front of the tanks that they used in Normandy. I don't see much of that being used later on. So I think that is something that is a very specific use case that's effective. But now look here. Now this is interesting. This is something very different than what I've seen before. Remember, we landed here at La Coruna. We marched to here. So we came along, let's see, infrastructure level, roads 3, railways 2, 3, and then to here. And the infantry moved fastest. Now that we're moving along here, I'm not quite sure why this is moving faster, and much faster. Yeah, city battles, that's where you... No, let's come over here. Tanks do better in open country. And do remember, we're looking at a game here that is set up for the strategic level, so things like radios in tanks or dozer blades on tanks are much more dependent, how much do they affect a strategic situation. Radios, they affect it greatly because we can see that the flexibility, whether at the tactical level or at the strategical level, the flexibility of Germany just outweighed the flexibility of the French, because the French refused to use radios even when they had them and they could use them. They had orders in World War II. They had orders that if somebody called you up on the radio, your commander called you up on the radio and says, "Hey, attack Hill 405 in 2 hours." Okay, sounds like a plan. I'll get ready. And they would have to wait for either in-person orders, or for the guy with the motorcycle to drive over there and hand written orders for them to attack that hill. If they didn't get the orders to attack the hill, they would not attack the hill, because the French were so paranoid that the Germans somehow would get on their radios and give them misleading orders. So they, and I don't know how, I've never listened to what it would sound like for French radio, for hearing, field, somebody over the radio, or even over the telephone. This also includes telephone. They were too worried that someone was going to wire them into the telephone line. So they had to wait for either an in-person, somebody that could come in person, give them that command, or a written command order. They had to wait for that because they were too paranoid over whether it's miscommunication, being not hearing it right over the telephone, because maybe he thought he heard Hill 405 when it was really Hill 403, or they were worried about Germans or somebody else, theoretically Italians or whoever, somehow putting false messages into the system. So they would only do it with written orders. So you could tell them that it's going to happen and that the orders are on the way on the motorcycle, but if the motorcycle doesn't get there for whatever reason, could be just getting lost, they don't do it. So that is just all part of the command loop that makes France so much worse than Germany. So that's sort of at the strategic level, because this would account for whether it was an army telling it to advance or retreat or hold at a particular river. And I could see more along the lines of an army, not trusting that communication. But the idea of a battalion or brigade commander or something having to wait, I don't think the normal companies had radios in the French army in 1940. An infantry company or whatever would have radios in 1940. I may be wrong about that. I don't know in detail. But so that whole command loop, radios are a big factor. Dozer blades or hedge cutters as being a big factor on a strategic level of any campaign. I'd go not much of an effect. I mean, I'm not saying zero, but not really determining the outcome. Let's see what the French were still like trench warfare doctrine too. Well, there's some of that with France too, but that's a whole other thing. Hello, Shadow BJ. My Katusha girl is gone. Is that from Girls and Panzers or something else? I don't know. Radio also gave them huge edge in Barbarossa early campaign. Yes. Oh yes. No, the radio, because whether we're talking about literally the radio in the tank, down to the, is definitely affecting it, but we're also talking about the command loop. Now, still, I would say, I don't know, field telephones for the German army were still a very major thing. Okay, so don't think they weren't. We're going to push slightly ahead because it's, let's do that, a little bit ahead on that. So yeah, radios, field telephones were a major thing at all levels for the German army. And the British, in 1940, the British are the only ones that are comparable. And I'm not sure who was better. I just don't know enough, because trust me guys, there's a lot about World War II I don't know. But the British had lots of radios. They had them. I don't think they quite had them to like every little tank that the Germans did. Now early on, my understanding, and I don't know where and when it changed, but early on, I think a lot of the Panzer ones only had receiving sets. And I think it was only like platoon commanders had, both sending and receiving sets. And then, of course, we see the command tank version, without the turret of the Panzer one. And that was to be able to add another person and sort of be able to have a fold-out map table along with maybe a bit more radios for the Panzer one. But that's just an early training tank that gets pushed into the war. And so I'm sure all of the Panzer ones in France, the Battle of France, they had at least receivers in their tanks, if not, both sending and receiving units. But like I was saying earlier, in Russia, a lot of platoon commanders maybe didn't even have radios, but they were supposed to have receiving sets. And most of the tanks did not even have a receiver radio in it. So, yeah, radios are a big, big deal in my opinion in World War II. Now, of course, the Americans outdo everybody by the end of the war, but they definitely did not in 1940. When they're doing the exercises and Mississippi and other places, some of the major exercises. Trust me, a lot of companies, infantry companies did not have radios. A lot of tank units that were really trucks that had tank written on the side of them didn't have radios in them, because they didn't even have tanks. So yeah, America in 1940 is not America in 1942, because you got to remember, it's late 1942. They're doing the torch landings, and it's not until 1943 that they're getting into Italy. So yeah, by that time they've caught up and are starting to surpass Germany in communications, and the British are following along with American support because of that. Okay, we can produce more factories. Okay, well, since it's still 36, I'm still going to produce civilian factories more. So now we're going to try this. Okay, we get Hermann Goering works well. Maybe we have to wait for a later stream, but so I'm going to have to go in about 15 minutes. I have another stream for Slytherin to do. Well, in an hour and 15 minutes, but yeah. My normal path here is, well, maybe this river will, well, we have to control both sides. So normally I come in here and push down through and take these places. We'll see how well that'll go without being able to control railroads. Let's go back into that right now. Into that one. Goes on Bilbao. We can do another national focus. So lots of, we do that, or we could do this. Reich Autobahn, okay. Nope, we're going to do KDF wagon. I like civilian factories early on. Get them in there, get them going. All right, we're building up air experience here, Navy here. Okay. Now I didn't send an expedite. Well, I guess we can now. Let's see. And air volunteers. Let's see how many we can send. That will help our air experience. Well, let's see if we can send these guys down here to here, and can we send these guys down? Nope, that's too many. No, can we split these? Yeah, we need to split air wings at 2. Okay. Nope, that's still too many. Okay, we sent too many maybe with that one. Oh well, no fighters will help. Oh, well, these are going. Okay, good. They're going. That's enough. Good. Very well. There we go. Let's put these guys up at air superiority mission. And these guys... close air support. We don't need to bomb the factories. Hello, Eric. How you doing today? Okay, so now it's yellow over this area instead of red, because we put our fighters up. Oh, great! Great. It's better than you expected. Well, very good. It's the sporting one, if I remember correctly. With very limited late production, but that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I remember things. But interesting how the Italians have sort of split up their force here. But okay, that's cool. Oh, number 65, cool. Eric is learning to be a gun collector. I am something of a gun collector if you're new here. You might not know that. I have a few of them. Yeah. Don't demand too much stuff from a Marno.
Weiter, weiter!
Okay, so they're holding out here. They don't have air superiority because we now have the air superiority here. And we're attacking from multiple directions. We've got our infantry division. Guderian's in charge, of course. We got our panzer division here. Now let's look at supply map. Supply is coming from here. What, I was wondering if we are sending supply. I don't know that we are. Again, we have a few new people, I'm sure, here. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button or the follow button over on Twitch. Love to see you around more. I'll be doing some more streaming of Hoi 4. Looking at it more, maybe playing a full proper series of it. I'm sure playing a whole series of it. You might want to check out on YouTube. Play that stuff up there. So, and of course, you can hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Helps with the algorithm. Can you show me the Dutch railroads, please? I certainly can. Okay, go back over here. So we see here, this is for the Netherlands here. How it's running through supply sources. Because the white is this nation's supply network, and so we come down to Belgium, that's this nation. Now they are connected here, but they don't, you know, Belgium isn't supplying supplies to the Netherlands or whatever, so that's why you're seeing the white coming and going. It's just what is currently within your system. So this goes to here for Germany, this goes to here, and obviously they'll connect once one side or the other takes control of, you know, one province or whatever, and as they push here. So yeah, this is probably easier now, better to hold here. It's always sort of been good. Whereas I think all this part of the Netherlands should not be defended. You just defend back here in this province, either here or, yeah, maybe there, but, you know, somewhere along this river and maybe back in Rotterdam. So there, I don't know, maybe there, because that's, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I would fortify that province if I were the game or somebody playing there, and hold back internally there. But so yeah, so there's that. Does that look more or less correct there, Arno? There probably should be a connection to The Hague. Not that it's really important in game terms, but I don't know if there should be out to Eindhoven and around here or not. You know, this wouldn't matter so much to the Dutch, you know, because there's supplying from Breda down over into here. But it would matter for the Germans moving through this way, if you will. You know, ability to turn the flank if the Belgians are able to hold Liège and hold, you know, back here to keep from being turned to flank. Sort of, yes. Okay, well, that's good. I think this is minimally adequate job, in my opinion. I'm not an expert on the railways. I really don't know whether this should connect through here, you know, coming across here or not, or whether there should be a connection coming through here. I've got to look at a railway map. I know it's not 100% of every province in every direction, but I think it's much more dense than this. And I don't mean just dense within the province. I mean connecting the provinces, because you can have huge density somewhere here, and maybe the mountains between these two provinces, not the whole province here, but these two provinces would not connect, you know, quite possibly. You know, and then obviously when you're getting into places like Switzerland, some of these mountain passes, I know they have some big tunnels and whatnot there. You can expect 100%. Yeah, not 100. Well, I don't know. You can expect good quality work. I don't know if that's 100% correct, but mostly in Germany, everything connects to everything somewhat. It was somewhat a spiderweb even back then. Oh, I know. It was heavily done, Tinky. And this, this goes back to my debate or argument with Podcat, they connect everywhere. It just comes down to infrastructure levels. And I agreed with him most all provinces in Europe, it would agree. But, obviously, I don't know, get out to here that you might have a province that wouldn't have railways, enough in it to count, and a few provinces maybe, in the Alps, but most everywhere in Western Europe. But if you looked in Spain, you would find just connections through here and here. There, to my knowledge, okay, there may be the connection to here. But to my knowledge at the time, there was only rail connection here and only rail connection here. And there would be, major difficulties in just trying to build a central connection. So, you just need light screening forces on the edges here and major ones here and here to hold either side. Because Americans, if you can't secure either one of these, pushing into Toulouse just means you're going to continue to run out of supplies unless you're American and you have enough air supply flying in. Sure, fine, you could argue air supply, flying the hump back in, from Burma into China kind of thing, or Assam in India. But, you could set up an air bridge across. America could. Probably only America could effectively. A division or two, Germany can. Yes, Britain can, a division or two. But outside of America, it's only Germany and Britain can they're a division or two. America, multiple corps if they arrange to have the air supply. But otherwise, the Pyrenees is not impassable, but an unsupplyable path, and you just hold either end. So that's appropriate. That's why I argued strongly for railroads in the past, and out here, obviously, as we talked earlier. So you find that type of stuff as to why. Well, it's just the whole idea, how accurate. Well, you don't need every little connection, but if there's rails coming through this, these three provinces here, as well as these three provinces here, they should both be in my opinion. Or if they come through here to here, as well as through here, well, just because you hold here, you could run supplies around them. So I have to look at a map, really, to really be informed. But, well, we're not caring about naval today. Okay, guys, well, my alarm's about ready to go off. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this now here. I may be back later today, or in a couple of days, I don't know, with more live playing of the new DLC, but I've got to go because, like I said, my alarm's going off in 3 minutes, and in an hour I've got to be live on Slytherin's channel. So, thank you all for being here. Like I said, please hit the subscribe button or the follow button if you're new. See you very soon. Everyone, thanks everyone.